Good day everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. Well, today you can buy a phone with last year's flagship specs for under $200. This is the LeEco Le Max 2. And this phone has the exact same specs that we used to have on the Samsung Galaxy Note 7. So first of all, we have a 5.7-inch screen. This is a Quad HD screen. We also have the Snapdragon 820 CPU. We have 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of internal storage, and the phone is running Android 6. The first thing you're gonna notice when you get this is the box. So the box gives you the impression that you actually bought a phone that cost $1,000, not a phone that costs only $200. So the box is definitely different than anything that we've seen in this price range. The phone itself is made out of metal and glass and it feels like a very premium phone. However, the design is a bit boring and it looks just like all the other smartphones that we've seen in the past 2 years. As for size, well, this is not a small phone by any means, and of course it's gonna be kind of difficult to actually use this phone holding it in one hand. Now, before we go any further, can you help me out by pressing that like button and let's see if we can get this video to like 300-400 likes? As I mentioned at the beginning, the back of the phone is made out of metal. However, we have plastic at the top and at the bottom, and that most likely covers some types of antennas. We also have a secondary microphone there, the 21 megapixel rear camera, the dual tone flash, the fingerprint scanner, and all the way at the bottom the LeEco logo. The rear camera sticks out quite a bit, and personally I wish the camera would have been flat to the phone's body. I think the phone would have looked better that way. Now about that fingerprint scanner. So you'd expect that since we have that Snapdragon 820, this is going to be a very fast fingerprint scanner. Well, it's not that fast and it's not that accurate. If you don't position your finger perfectly on that fingerprint scanner, well, it's not going to unlock the phone. And I have to say that this is among the worst fingerprint scanners that I've tried in the past 6 months. And it was a bit disappointing considering the specs that we have for this device. The sides of the phone are a continuation of the back, therefore made out of metal. On the right hand side you're going to find the power button and the volume keys. And of course these ones are also made out of metal. And on top we're going to find an IR blaster. I've used the IR blaster on a couple of occasions with my Samsung TV and it does work good, but you have to point the phone towards the TV like any other remote control. Moving to the left hand side of the phone, there we have the slot for the SIM card. Unfortunately, this phone doesn't take any SD cards. And that means that you are not going to be able to expand the internal storage for this phone. However, out of that 64 gigs of internal storage that comes with it, we have about 54 gigs left, and the speeds that I got for the internal storage are very good. And moving all the way to the bottom of the phone, there you're going to find the speaker, the microphone, and a USB-C port. The speaker gets quite loud and it's got some bass to it as well, and it doesn't sound bad at all. This phone supports fast charging and you're going to be able to charge the entire phone from 0 to 100 in about an hour and a half, and it also supports OTG, and that means that you can plug in any USB stick and the phone will be able to read whatever you have on that USB stick. As you may have noticed, we don't have a 3.5mm audio jack, but at least we get some USB-C headphones and an adapter from USB-C to a 3.5mm audio jack. Inside the Le Max 2 we have a 3100 non-removable battery, and for today's standards that's a rather small battery. The battery life is not exceptional for this phone, so you're going to be able to make it through an entire day and maybe get about 4 hours of screen on time, but of course it will really depend how you actually use your phone. The front of the phone could have looked better if we didn't have those big black bezels around the screen, but I guess that's the price to pay when you have a cheaper device. So all the way to the top there we have an 8 megapixel front-facing camera, we have the speaker, a couple of sensors, and we also have a notification light. Most selfies that you're gonna take with good light will turn out great with a lot of detail, but as soon as you don't have enough light, well, the pictures don't look good at all. The 5.7-inch screen has a resolution of 2560 by 1440, and I have to say the viewing angles are great, the colors are nice and vibrant, and the screen is on par with much more expensive devices. It gets bright enough to be seen outside in direct sunlight. We also have great sensitivity, so you can actually touch the screen in 10 places at the same time and the screen will register, and I haven't had any issues whenever I was typing or playing any games. And lastly, all the way at the bottom of the screen we have 3 physical buttons, and the buttons also light up. So we have the multitasking button, the home button, and the return key, and you're not going to be able to move them around. For performance, I have to say that I was quite impressed with this phone, and the phone actually felt faster than the Samsung Galaxy Note 7. So of course with the Snapdragon 820 and 4 gigs of RAM, the scores that we are going to get on the Antutu Benchmark and the Geekbench 4 are also high. Apps open very quickly, so just like on any other flagship device, and using Chrome for example works without any issues. So scrolling up, scrolling down, zooming in, zooming out, it's done without any issues. On the YouTube app the maximum resolution is 1440, and that's basically the resolution of the screen, and all the videos that I tried also work very good without any issues. You can also expect great performance while gaming. Of course, the phone will get a bit hot, but that's pretty normal these days. So I played GTA San Andreas, and of course the game did go without any problems. The GPS unit inside this phone is also very quick to find your location. However, I did see other phones that were a bit faster. Using Google Maps or any other navigation app will also work very good. As for sensors, well, we have all the sensors that you'd expect from a phone that costs about $1,000, and all the sensors that are available seem to work good, and none of them seem to be faked either. The phone has great reception pretty much wherever you go. The speaker on top here gets quite loud, so no issues whenever you're making phone calls. And the phone also supports 4G connectivity and dual band Wi-Fi. The speeds that I got over Wi-Fi are very good, so among the best that I've seen for any smartphone. And of course the speeds over 4G are quite normal. On the back of the phone, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a 21 megapixel camera, and this camera also supports 4K recordings. And here is a quick sample of a 4K recording that I've done with this phone. This is a quick 4K camera test to this new phone that I'm trying out. So I'm gonna try getting closer to this so you can see how well they look. The camera app looks quite simple and it doesn't have as many options as you'd expect. Of course, we have a few filters in there, and we also have a night mode and an HDR mode. In the HDR mode, it takes a couple of seconds to actually take a picture, but some of the pictures that you're gonna take with the HDR mode on look very, very good. And this is an example of a picture with the HDR mode on and with the HDR mode off. The picture quality from this phone is very uneven, so some pictures that you're gonna take with this phone turn out very, very good, and some pictures turn out very boring, and it's very difficult to tell when you're actually gonna take a good picture and when you're not. Some pictures that you're gonna take with it are gonna have a lot of detail and the colors will be nice and vibrant, and some will just have very boring, plain looking colors. Of course, all the pictures that you've been watching or taking on this device. Now, as soon as it gets dark, all the pictures become very blurry and very grainy, so not the best phone for taking low light pictures. The LeEco Max, it's using Android 6.0.1, and I highly doubt that this phone will ever get Android 7 or Android 7.1. So on top of that Android 6.0.1 that we have on this device, we have a skin called EUI. This skin is definitely not my favorite, and I have to say that that's probably the worst thing about this phone. And the first thing I've actually done when I got this phone was to install Nova Launcher and make the phone look normal. Something that takes a bit of time to get used to is where the quick toggles are positioned. So normally you'd just swipe down from the top and you'd find them there. Well, with this phone you're gonna press the multitasking button, and it looks something that you'd find on an iPhone, for example. So that's where you'd find quick toggles and all the apps running in the background. Multitasking also seems to work fairly good, and the phone will be able to keep a whole bunch of apps running in the background. So this phone has a lot of things going for it. First of all, the price. So for under $200 you get a phone that has flagship specs, so that's not something that we usually get. Aside from that, you get a gorgeous looking screen, because this is a very good looking screen and a very premium looking phone. The downside to the phone is the fingerprint scanner that doesn't work that well, and that EUI operating system that they used, because that's definitely not the greatest thing about this phone. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.